chair of the meeting is recording. Please go ahead.
All right, thanks, Cam, and welcome everyone, DRCOG staff, city officials, boards of directors, volunteers to our oversight board. My name's Steve Barr. I'm the mayor pro tem for the city of Littleton and also a member of the DRCOG board of directors. And I just want to officially welcome you all to our very first regional building decarbonization oversight committee meeting. So thank you all for jumping on today. I just want to say how excited I am to work with you all. We just want to make sure if you don't have the agenda, Cam and DRCOG staff will be able to make sure you get all the materials you need prior to the meeting. But we're going to go ahead and do a call to order and a roll call to start things off. And then we will go through a public comment session, as this is a public oversight body, and begin our oversight meeting with some brief introductions. For those of you that do have the agenda, are there any comments, questions, or changes before we do our call to order and move on to public comment? If you do have questions during the course of this, if you have technical challenges, audio problems, anything like that, feel free to use the chat. I know myself and other staff will be monitoring the chat, or go ahead and raise a virtual hand and we'll make sure to try to get that addressed. So, Robert, would you like to do the roll call?
I will. I just saw Andrew Holder is joining us. Make sure he gets in. Hi, Andrew. Sorry about leaving you in the waiting room for a second there. We will go down the list of our members. Doug Rex, DRCOG. Steve Barr.
Here.
Richard Kondo. Steve Douglas.
Present.
Brian Wong.
Here.
Andrew Holder.
Good morning, everyone.
Christian Willis. Had conflict today. Dr. Cherie Walker Ravenel.
Here.
Stephen Shepard.
Yeah.
And Randy Drennan.
Thank you, Robert. And now we're going to be moving. Just want to make sure you did get Director Kondo on there, as he has audio challenges, but wanted to make sure he was on there for the record.
Did I skip him, Director Kondo? I'm so sorry.
No, you said his name. I just wanted to make sure you got an acknowledgement that he was in fact present. All right. With that, we're going to go ahead and move on to public comment. Robert, do we have any public commenters on the line?
If there are any public comment, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none.
All right, Robert, thank you very much. And now we're going to start moving on to introductions. Hopefully this will be, the only meeting where we necessarily take this amount of time. But like I said, for those of you that joined, just after I said it, my name's Steve Barr. I'm the mayor pro tem for the city of Littleton. We're going to take some time to walk through not only introductions between us as board members, but our DRCOG staff as well. They'll get into a little bit of their own introductions in some of their presentation. We just want to make sure everyone has a good understanding of who's doing what in this big virtual room that we've got. Again, by means of a even just short, brief bio, I'm so excited to say, to work on this oversight board with all of you. My background is in federal EPA contracting and grants management. I work, as a day job. My current day job is I work on water, wastewater, and stormwater projects in disadvantaged communities under EPA grant funds. So when this opportunity presented itself, I was just so excited to work with a fantastic team at the DRCOG to make sure we see one of the nationwide, largest EPA programs out there be as successful as we all know it can be. So with that being said, I don't have a particular order, and I don't know if it makes sense to do oversight board members first, but let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll move on to DRCOG staff. So actually, let's go ahead, and I'm just kind of going through the scroll in my screen. Director Kondo. Oh, by the way, I go by Steve, so no mayor pro tem, director, whatever. Just tell us how you'd like us to refer to you in your intro. That would be fantastic.
Okay, can you all hear me, hopefully? Now? Okay, excellent. Rich Kondo, council member, City of Northland, 2.5 years, coming up on 3 years in the seat. Before that, I was doing mergers and acquisition, new business development in the medical device industry. And then my very first career after graduating college was nuclear submarine officer. So I have a strong nuclear technical background, science background, so to speak, and am the treasurer of DRCOG. I am the #2 person after Steve here for this oversight board as the vice chair, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
Director Spear, why don't you go ahead?
Hi, all. Nicole Spear, councilperson, City of Boulder. When I am not counseling, I work at the University of Colorado Boulder. My background is in cognitive neuroscience, and I manage a brain imaging research facility, at least as long as we have some federal grants. So that is my job. So I'm very well versed in sort of the world of federal grants and management of them and things like that. So it's a pleasure to be here with you all, and thanks so much for getting those set up.
I'm getting a word from Mr. Kennedy over at the DRCOG staff. If everyone could actually go ahead and list their organizational affiliation in that rename button section under Zoom, if you can do that. Erie, DRCOG, Boulder, Denver. That would be fantastic. Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Cam. Thank you for the suggestion. So in fact, I need to go do that. So I'm gonna stop talking, and Mr. Shepard, why don't you go ahead next?
Yep, my name's Steven Shepard, go by Steven. So Steve, my dad's Steve, so I can't be a Steve. I am the Chief Staff Officer for the Building Owners and Managers Association. So our members own and run commercial buildings. So we've been involved in Energize Denver Reg 28. I was on the Climate Action Task Force for the City and County of Denver that created the Energize Denver Ordinance Task Force that then resulted in that ordinance. So I've been engaged in that. I'm not necessarily real technical, but the great thing is that I've got lots of resources through our members that include all the consultants that work with our members on them achieving the goals that have been set forth by both of those programs. So hopefully we'll be able to work through all of the things. And then we also have a huge workforce development program through BOMA, trying to recruit people into our the building engineer pathway for a career. It is a great living wage job. And then we also work with a lot of the different trade groups around trying to make sure that students realize that there is a pathway that's alternate to college, university. And in my first life, I was actually a teacher. So have a strong background in education and curriculum development as well. So thank you guys. I'm looking forward to being with y'all and working through all of this with you.
Thank you, Stephen. We do have to differentiate between all the Steves on the call, so it's appreciated that someone is willing to take the longer name. Director Baer.
Hello. It's nice to be here today and see all of you. Happy Valentine's Day. My name is Emily Baer. I'm a council member in the town of Erie, and my interest in being a part of this group was kind of stemmed from my experience advocating for my family and my community around oil and gas development and regulations starting in 2018. And so just really connecting to the equity piece that is required in this this grant, and really wanting to ensure that we're connecting with communities, particularly LIDAC communities, cumulatively impacted communities, and wanting to make sure that we're and kind of centering their experience and their needs. And so I look forward to working with all of you, and thanks so much.
Thanks so much, Emily. All right, Dr. Cherie Walker-Rivenel.
Morning, all. I am the ED at Black Parents United Foundation, Brown Parents United Foundation. We are a community-based nonprofit out in Aurora. We also have an office in Commerce City. Our focus is primarily around education justice, health disparities, and environmental justice. Currently, we are working on our BREATHE policy. That's a community-led policy that we wrote with the community and partnering now for the past 3 years with the Air Quality Division with Ogletree and his team. We are focusing more around what our community needs, especially since a lot of our communities and the Black and Brown communities are sick. Right now, I live literally right behind the new fracking well that they put up. And I am terribly sick right now. And that's been our biggest focus. Right now, currently, we have already launched our air monitoring project out here in Aurora. We're working with the city of Aurora to see the impacts of what pollutants our community are breathing in near the oil and gas industry. Obviously, we know that those guys really are causing a big issue with our communities, especially our poor communities. And before the word disproportionately impacted communities exist, we were always here. So our focus is to bring that education awareness, but not just addressing the problems. But my reason for joining this oversight committee was to bring solutions to our community, because our community needs a voice. And when there's power in the people, we're stronger. So even right now, with all the chaos that is happening in our country now, we're still bringing that hope, and we're still going to do the work, even though there's been all these different things that are happening. Right now, it's a day-by-day thing that we're working on. But our goal is to continuously work with our constituents and work with our community so then we can bring those solutions. So following, even before I got into nonprofit, I have a strong education background. I was a teacher. I was a teacher in Denver, and I was a teacher in Jeffco for many years before before I got into the nonprofit sector. But I've been in nonprofit since I was 15 years old, so over 20 years. And I've grown up poor. I was born in Mississippi in the Delta area, and when I moved here, I've been over here almost 20 years. There's no difference. There's no difference. Environmental justice is everywhere. And the sad thing is that communities don't even know what that looks like. And right now we're in the conversation of letting communities know this is what environmental justice look like to you. And a lot of these issues in our disproportionately impacted communities, these issues are not just genetics, but we don't know what we don't know. So my goal with this committee is to not just have a seat at the table, but to bring that voice, and not just my voice, but bring the community's voice in these meetings, because that's going to be the important way that we can combat the climate justice issues and all the health disparities that Black, Brown, and Indigenous and poor communities are facing here in the Denver metro area. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for telling us about the work that you do. And we're so excited to have you on our team. Mr. Holder.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Andrew Holder. I work here for Excel Energy, do community relations and local government affairs. A number of you on this call, I think we've had interactions and met previously, so it's good to see you again, and happy Valentine's Day. My interest in this is echoing some things that have already been shared here before, but obviously we're an electric and natural gas provider here in the state of Colorado, and with a number of different projects that we have forthcoming, which includes a large amount of electrical infrastructure to house some of the initiatives that we are undertaking here in the state of Colorado, is ensuring that we have a great community of folks that are helping us stack hands on placing this infrastructure that makes sense for our community, but ensuring that we have the holistic view of ensuring that disproportionately impacted communities and other represented voices are heard in those siting efforts. So looking forward to having these type of conversations just for the group's awareness. I'm specifically thinking in my head, and this is something that I've had a number of conversations with DRCOG about, is we have a distribution system plan that is being contemplated by the Public Utilities Commission at the moment, and that plan contemplates 58 new substations. And that's in the state of Colorado, but generally speaking, about 51 of the 58 are going to be in the Denver metro region. And that's all the way to the north side of Boulder County, looking all the way down to the south side of the Denver metro region in like Lone Tree. And if you guys, as we all drive the I-25 corridor throughout the day, or I-70, a standard substation takes about 3 to 3.5 acres. I don't know if you guys are seeing that land availability, but I'm not seeing it out my windshield. So I think we're really going to need to work together to have that conversation and ensuring that the right voices are being elevated so that we do this for the best of our communities to serve their energy needs. So thank you for that, but I'm looking forward to having a partnership in this conversation.
Appreciate that, Mr. Holder. Mr. Drennan.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Randy Drennan. I'm the Executive Director and CEO of the Rocky Mountain Mechanical Contractors Association. Live in the town of Erie, so I see some of you are my neighbors. Early kind of past life, I also served on the Thornton City Council many moons ago. Have a history with the contracting community. So for I've been at RMMCA now for just a half a year, but prior to that, I was with the Colorado Contractors Association, and they're the heavy highway infrastructure contracting group. So a lot of road builders, bridge builders, reservoirs, railroads, things like that, horizontal construction. And prior to that, I was actually working for one of those contractors, doing a lot of public and civil projects. So that's kind of my background, and serve on some school boards and do some other things throughout the community. But that's kind of my interest, and most of my contractors, I would say almost exclusively, I think I have one residential contractor, but most of my group is largely in the commercial space, doing quite a bit of things with the City and County of Denver in the Energized Denver space. Obviously, they're the folks that are kind of the tip of the spear with installing things like heat pumps and alternative applications to reduce carbon in building footprints, and have worked with Stephen from BOMA quite a bit, tackling some of those issues and challenges that come with that effort. But looking forward to working with this group for sure, and hopefully being able to tap into my membership to provide some of the technical perspective as well.
Thank you so much, Randy. All right, Ms. Lichten.
Hi there, lovely to meet you folks. My name is Samantha Lichten. You can call me Sam. I work for the City and County of Denver in our Office of Climate Action, Sustainability, and Resilience. I work on buildings and homes for Denver and was one of the lead architects for the grant application. So I'm going to be an in-kind staff donation in a number of ways, supporting Robert as best I can, and probably the Building Policy Collaborative as well, and look forward to supporting this phenomenal effort.
Thank you so much. Sorry, windows are shifting around. Director Douglas.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Steve. And I go by Steven. My son is Steven as well. So when we're together, I am Steve and he is Steven. But in this group, I can be called Steven. So I appreciate the opportunity. I first, part of this decarbonization was part of Commerce City as the mayor of Commerce City. And then also on a director for United Power. I was recently elected to United Power in 2023 in April. And then in November of 2023, I was elected as mayor of Commerce City. I previously served for Commerce City in 2011 to 2019 as a council member at large. And so my transition to United Power was basically to look at renewables. And when I was able to take on that role with United Power, at that time they were with Tri-State as a generation transmission, where we pretty much purchased our block of power from. And they were transitioning. So now United Power has transitioned away from Tri-State, and we're on our own. when it comes to decarbonization, that is a number one goal, especially based on what Colorado has, I would say regulation wise, some of this stricter standards as far as decarbonation when you are trying to energize throughout the state. So this is a huge opportunity to participate on the United Power side. But then again, we do have challenges in Commerce City because Suncor, not only that, but the non-attainment area brings on great challenges to reduce our carbon. As you know, as you look to the foothills, I saw yesterday in this morning, there was a thick brown cloud. And that's going to happen because of our cold air and all that. But our air quality was in the hundreds. And just a few weeks ago, we were in the green. Now we're in the yellow. And so that indicates that we do have poor air quality. And that's just, it's just how our makeup is being in this valley and such a high altitude. And when the sun comes up, the temperature, we have that cocktail mix, and we got that inversion that comes up. So unless we have a good wind that comes through to remove that, we're always going to be in constant swirl. And not only that, bringing in also, before I left council and now I'm back, we have several charging stations that have been implemented in our city. Mow down program. I was elected to the Regional Air Quality Council by the Governor Polis, my last stint with the Commerce City. So when it comes to governance and advocating for clean air and decarbonization, I look forward to this challenge and being on this board. I did serve on the DRCOG board years ago, but in this role now, it's things have changed. DRCOG to me has been more as a partner and making sure that metropolitans within the district, there is a share of quality. I'm also on the transportation infrastructure for federal on the federal side, and so there's challenges there. So I'm in a mix of a lot. I also serve an E470 board as a director. So I wear a lot of hats, and I do appreciate Dr. Streetwalker being on this committee as well and representing Black and Brown Parents Unite. So thank you very much, and allow me to introduce myself.
Thank you so much, Director Douglas. Yeah, we'll figure out what title to give you, whether it be director or Stephen or one of Stevens. So we'll sort this in the days ahead. But thank you again for that bio. And Director Wong.
Hey there, Brian Wong, Mayor Pro Tem, City of Lafayette. I've been in office now for 5 years, going on my 6th year. I'm glad to be here. Prior to being elected city council, spent 7 years on our planning commission. So really excited to bring that knowledge forward. In addition, just glad to be a part of this, especially with the diversity that we have within Lafayette, both economically and ethnically. So excited for that. And I apologize for my camera's off. I am somewhere where it is currently 80 degrees. I won't disclose where, but I understand it's a little chilly there in Colorado right now. So I'll be on cameras on next time. Just right now, it's sitting outside doing this call. So thank you.
That was an excellent humble brag to close us out, Brian. Thank you so much, and enjoy your 80 degrees. We're gonna, right before we turn this over to Director Rex and Robert for intros to staff and our programs and kicking off the technical portion of this, I just want to say, obviously being in a Zoom call right now, it may not be entirely sufficient for everyone to be able to explain your backgrounds, where you come from, what you hope to get out of this oversight board and committee. It'll be my job as the chair to kind of reach out to you all individually over the coming month, and hear a little bit more about you, what you hope to get out of this work. questions, concerns, things you'd like to look out for. So be on the lookout for that. I'm not going to do that all the time every month, but I think it's really important as we get started that folks, have those expectations voiced. And sometimes that's just kind of hard to do in a forum like this. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and Doug, do you want to take the first crack at it?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, very much, and good morning, everybody. Really do appreciate your attendance today and your participation on this committee. My name is Doug Rex, Executive Director at DRCOG. I go by Steve, so this is going to be a little awkward for us all. I'm only teasing. You're all directors to me, so that makes it easy. So I appreciate everybody. But listen, this is a new adventure for us at DRCOG, right? Anybody that knows a little bit of our history, I know Robert's going to share a little bit in his slides, so I won't steal any of it. But we're really excited about this opportunity, and I'm so proud of the leadership team that we've assembled and the vision they have for this program. And you'll see this throughout the presentations today. I think you'll be as optimistic and excited as I am about the progress we hope to make and the difference we hope to make over the next 5 years or so. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I might just turn it to Robert and let him get going, huh?
All right, thanks. So, do you want me to just dive into the presentations and the staff will introduce ourselves that way? Director Barr, does that make sense? Okay, fantastic. Well, I'm going to start sharing screen. I'll just start by saying that I was pretty nervous about this meeting, and then I heard all of your qualifications, and I'm now even more nervous. So I am so honored to have you all here, and you obviously have incredible roles in our community and our region, and the fact that you're willing to spend some of your time with us once a month means so much to us, I can't tell you. And happy Valentine's Day. All right, you all are seeing my screen, yes? All right, fantastic. So I'm Robert Spotts. I'm managing the Building Decarbonization Program here at DRCOG. It's known as Decarbonize DRCOG for now. We're working on that with our marketing team. We do intend to have a new brand. My bio, along with the bios of our staff, are in the packet, so I'm not going to waste time there. There probably is a big elephant in the room right now. For your awareness, we are currently in a position where we are not able to draw funds from our grant, despite the temporary restraining order. And we have no communication with EPA for the moment. That said, we are confident that this program will be executed and that with the legal system will correct this and we'll be able to execute. And we just have to. We have worked too hard on this, and it is too important to not be able to execute this. And I don't believe it matters what side of the political spectrum you're on. This program is beneficial to the people of the United States of America and our region. So again, honored to have you all here. I'm going to dive right in. So we recently did the region's first greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And you'll see there, this might look a little different than some of the emission inventories you're used to seeing. You'll notice that power generation is not on there, for instance. Local governments tend to do their accounting a little bit different than states. We look at the end use, right? So the power is being generated, but why is it being generated? It's being generated 52% for buildings, right? So in our region, that's a massive problem if we're aiming to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, right? In the region every year, it's about 43.7 million metric tons of CO2 produced. It's hard to even think about what that means. That's about the same as burning 5 billion gallons of gas every year. So it's, that means the building end, over 2.5 billion gallons of gas equivalency is being burned to keep our buildings warm and all the other operations that are happening inside those buildings. Beyond the greenhouse gas, obviously, there's other really important things going on. There's indoor air quality, there's comfort, there's public health. So beyond just those greenhouse gas emissions, this is really important work for our community. But we have the solution. We've done it. We figured it out. We are huge fans of heat pumps here. We believe that this is borderline miraculous technology. It is crazy. We have been burning things to warm ourselves for hundreds of thousands of years, right? And only recently have we, as a species, created this thing that can move heat around. And that sounds crazy, but you know what? Your air conditioner is already doing that. This is just kind of doing the same thing in reverse. It's part of a larger effort here, right? That we do need to worry about building efficiency. The whole system has to be efficient and electric eventually, and the heat pump is kind of the centerpiece of that mission. And so you're going to hear a lot more about those. I'm sure people on this call know a lot more about the technology itself, but this is our solution. I'm going to just dive into our history a little bit here. For those of you that may not be super familiar with DRCOG, we are a regional council of governments. It's a planning organization where local governments collaborate to establish guidelines, set policy, and allocate funding in the area of transportation, personal mobility, growth, development, aging, and disability resources. So huge, wide range of regional efforts that DRCOG, we were many hats, and we are putting on a new hat now. We are really entering the sustainability space, especially with a focus on building decarbonization. Our area is large. It's larger than many states. We have 10 counties, 58 member governments, huge diversity in terms of both climates and geographic characteristics, obviously the mountains, all the way to the Eastern Plains, from Grays Peak to South Platte River. And we have many roles here. So putting this in front of you again, through the Inflation Reduction Act, part of that program was the EPA's Climate Pollution Reduction Grant Program. In April of 2023, once that opportunity came around, the DRCOG board voted unanimously kind of be the agency that would fulfill this opportunity for the DRCOG region. And that came with a $1 million planning grant. DRCOG hired staff and a consultant to help us put together the region's first ever climate action plan. Our priority climate action plan was adopted last year in February, so about a year ago. As you know, you could look at the writing on the wall here. You're seeing an image of our inventory. We, as such, focus that climate action plan mostly on the buildings and transportation space, the space where local governments have kind of the most control to make a change. And then after that plan, for that focus, recognizing the impact of buildings, DRCOG, with their partners, decided to pursue a grant through that same climate pollution reduction grant program. And in January of 2024, the DRCOG board voted unanimously to pursue this grant. But we didn't come up with this. This was born by our partners. Our local government partners had recognized basically that the same problem that we had, that buildings are this huge source of emissions and they can't do it alone, right? This is a regional or even nationwide problem that they got together and formed this thing called the Front Range Beneficial Electrification Network, or FURBN, as we call it. And their mission was to work together to accelerate the adoption of building efficiency and electrification through regional collaboration and equity. And so they began working groups to basically figure out what the barriers were here that we had to get through to make this big change in this sector. There are so many people that participated in this grant, and I was hesitant to put this together because I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody's name that was absolutely critical to the grant, but I had to show you these people. These folks became an extension of DRCOG staff during the grant writing process. We had full day workshops for months in a row. And then they eventually became the transition team after we awarded the grant. There was basically 60 local government staff that were touching this program every single week for months on end here, getting our RFPs up and running, figuring out the structure of this program, helping us with job descriptions and beyond. And I'm going to highlight 3 names out of this group: Maddie Nesbitt, Samantha Lichten, and Sabina Maniac. They were the ones at the end pushing this project through. They were working weekends and nights. They were the ones putting the finishing touches on this program that really made it happen. So I thank everyone so much for participating. And as a regional planner, I've said this multiple times, but it's just like, it's been so amazing to just watch a region come together and build something this aspirational, and then being able to implement it. I'm going to mention another name out of that list. Mara Owen from North Glen is the person that wrangled 90 letters of support. And these are huge names in our region, right? If you can gather 90 letters of support, you can do literally anything. I'm not concerned about implementing this program if we can do that. We had so much support, but you know, you'll see the names here. There's more that aren't even mentioned here, but huge effort. There were so many letters of support that we actually broke the EPA application portal because you're only allowed to upload 100 documents. So we had to figure out some. They were joining PDFs at the last minute so that we could get them all in there. The result of that huge planning effort was this work plan. That work plan is still available on our website. It's an amazing document. It basically comprehensively describes what we are meant to do. It's the foundation of our contract with EPA, and it describes the work we'll undertake, including our budget and beyond. So if you ever have kind of like a broad question about our program, the work plan is our guiding document. Now, even though it's 25 pages, we struggled to meet that page minimum, right? It was very difficult. So, you know, if you're talking about one of our initiatives like communications, despite all the work that was in here, it's really only a paragraph. So we do have, even though this is like our budget's defined, we just have a lot of wiggle room in terms of what we are actually able to do with that money and think creatively and aspirationally and innovatively, right? Finally, as you know, this is why you are here. In July of last year, DRCOG was awarded $199.7 million from the EPA to implement this program. Okay, so here's what we're doing. We have a huge challenge right now, right? You saw the emissions coming from the building sector. I told you that the technology solution exists, but there are barriers, and we're going to try to systematically break down those barriers through this program, right? So people don't know what heat pumps are. You know, there's limited awareness from building owners that this technology exists and what it can do. We don't have folks in the workforce that are trained to do this, and a lot of contractors are not interested in doing it. Business as usual is working for them. There can be significant upfront costs, even if that does eventually lead to more comfort, reduced costs for utilities, and better indoor air quality, right? And then there's a patchwork of regulatory building codes and beyond and implementation regulations throughout this region, which make it complicated to install. So our goal is to kind of holistically transform this market in the Denver region by tackling these challenges. We are going to do that with a priority in low income and disadvantaged communities. In our work plan, we dedicated 47% of the funds to be beneficial for our low income and disadvantaged communities. The geographies you're seeing there are from EPA, pre-Trump administration. Those geographies have since been taken down, and EPA has, as you've probably seen, has some guidance about, not EPA, excuse me, the federal government has had some guidance about taking away Justice 40 initiatives, as they're called. So we're waiting for guidance from EPA on how to handle this. That said, at the end of the day, our program really is focused on income qualified benefits, right? So we want folks in our region, no matter what their income, no matter where they are located, be able to participate in this program. And that means some folks need more help than others, right? To get these utilities, to get their home electrified and more efficient. So you'll see in the other programs, though, every program focuses on equity first and bringing along all the residents of our region. Okay, so we're going to talk. Each one of our program managers is going to get into these, into the weeds on these. I'm from a 10,000 foot level. Here's our program, right? $200 million. And I'm just going to click through here. First three services here. There's about $47 million dedicated to free building decarbonization services for low income and disadvantaged communities within our region. An energy advisor program is about $17 million. And they want to provide neutral advice to building owners and guide them through their kind of electrification journey without bias, without, you know, they want the customer to not feel like they're being pressured. They just want to provide the best possible. And then we're just providing rebates and other incentives to just drive down cost for the mass market as well. That's on this support system. We intend to accelerate by training new workers as well as convincing contractors so that this is the best way to do things, and that they should participate in these programs, take advantage of these rebates. The Building Policy Collaborative is about $35 million. It's about driving forward building policy and getting more consistent policy across our entire region. We also have a $6 million innovation grant program that will drive innovation through grants that would be available to local governments, nonprofits, and the private sector. That all is standing on co-creation of meaningful, equitable, far-reaching programs through our marketing and community engagement, making people aware that these products exist, as well as co-creating it and figuring out ways to make sure, again, that we are bringing along our region's most vulnerable populations to participate in this program. Here's the big picture. I'm just going to focus on that right column. We are talking about 1.6 million people being engaged and finding out what a heat pump is, being encouraged to participate in their program, whether that's becoming a customer or a job seeker finding a job in this industry. 1,600 residences retrofit for free for low income and disadvantaged communities in our region. That's a huge number of residences, and it guarantees work for contractors that are curious about entering this space. We want to advise about 50,000 people, 40,000 rebates issued, every single DRCOG jurisdiction supported, grants awarded for innovation, almost 5,000 workers trained. And Denver and Boulder, who obviously have the deepest pockets and have their own programs, have really committed to kind of wind down their own programs within their community and funnel their dollars through our program. So that's a huge additional support of an extra $70 million, $73 million, not just the money, but committing staff time to this program. That staff time that has been so important in building this program from the ground up. They've been the bleeding edge, the leading edge, all of it in this space, right? And we can learn from them and utilize their expertise as well as their dollars to make this program go even further. But we're not alone. We have more partners in this space. We recognized after we won this grant, we're not doing this alone. The Energy Office was also awarded money through the same initiative, as well as through the Department of Energy. The Collective Clean Energy Fund is our green bank, and there's opportunities there for low-cost financing, rewiring America, creative tools, and figuring out how to work within the market so that these rebates and others aren't inflating the costs for others. And of course, Excel Energy. Mr. Holder, thank you so much for being here. Absolutely critical partner. We've been working together on a regular basis for months now. This is a picture from our 1.5-day workshop. Folks flew in from Minnesota, and we just recognized we're doing the same thing, and we can either do it in a vacuum or we can figure out the synergies and make this work together. So huge partnership. And all in all, with our program, it's up to $1 billion coming to Colorado over the next 5 years. It's just a huge investment here. It's an unprecedented opportunity that we have here. So I'm not going to dive into, I kind of dove in already, but we've recognized the need, and we are figuring out creative ways to make this $1 billion as efficient as possible, as innovative as possible, and drive this market transformation. So talking about how we're going to do this now. So first of all, here's our organization chart. We have our 4 program managers hired already. You're about to hear from each one of them individually. We have our business operations manager hired already, Sharon. And we're working on hiring all those folks below. So in all, it'll be about 16 people working on this program at DRCOG. And then there's you. So DRCOG staff will be working with continuing our partnerships with local governments and the Building Decarbonization Network, that is Excel and the Energy Office and beyond. We'll be working together, bringing things to a technical committee. They meet the first Tuesday of each month. We envision them as kind of their government staff, subject matter expertise is that they can really shape the program, they can understand the nuance and make good recommendations to you all, the oversight committee. At the end of the day, we want you all to be vetting things so that when motions do go to the DRCOG board, it's been so thoroughly vetted by your expertise that it's really just a rubber stamping exercise at the board, frankly. And you see our board members here today. We want them to bring what they've seen at the oversight committee to the board and convey those messages. So your responsibilities, in terms of actual policy, you will be making recommendations that concern budgetary decisions, policy decisions, and funding allocations. Very important. We're going to bring a lot of nuanced stuff to you consistently, and you're going to have kind of a deep understanding of those challenges so that you can make those recommendations to the board, right? But we want to go beyond that. We really want your strategic, visionary, programmatic guidance, right? We are in this stuff every single day, but that does not mean we don't have blind spots, right? And then beyond that, we would ask that you take what you see here, these benefits. We our program provides so much good, and we don't want it to be put in the wrong place. We want you to be ambassadors for a program, go out to your respective communities, your partners, and tell them the good work we're doing and the opportunities that we have. So aspirationally, here's what we're doing. By the way, this is Clay and Mac, our current staff. Dressed as a heat pump and a heat pump water heater for Halloween last year. That's how obsessed they are with heat pumps. In all things, equity first. We want to ensure that even our region's most vulnerable populations benefit from this transition. Our goal is to work ourselves out of a job. We want to not be in this space in 5-10 years, because this is just a new business as usual. People aren't even thinking about putting gas furnaces, and they're thinking about making a home efficient before they do any type of change. We have real startup energy around here. It's so exciting. We have flexibility, and we have a learned foundation to grow from, but we want to be pioneering groundbreaking solutions through this program. And basically, at the end of the day, with this opportunity, we have $1 billion coming to the state of Colorado with a focus on this region. We want to be the model, not just for the United States, but for the rest of the world, and kind of prove that this transition is possible, so that it happens elsewhere, right? And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sam Lichten here, who's going to kind of walk through how this actually looks in the real world. Sam.
I wanted to show and share with you folks a vision for what this program will look like in the community. So this is Colorado Street and some of the folks who live and work here. First, meet April. They recently bought their first home. And this is June. She works for the town's local government in a municipal building next door. And this is August. He runs a small HVAC company from an office on the corner. April, our new homeowner, just bought their first home, which is in a LIDAC tract designated by Colorado's EnviroScreen. April heard about DRCOG's building decarbonization program through an ad on social media. Intrigued, April gets in touch with an energy advisor who identifies that April qualifies for the LIDAC decarbonization program and sets up a visit. The experience really was full service. Advisors laid out a plan for April to swap out appliances at no expense. And before you know it, April has scheduled the upgrade with a DRCOG trained trade partner. April's neighbor, May, notices the big smile on April's face. May asks why they're so happy, and April tells May about the energy upgrade. May had already heard about DRCOG's program from a Spanish language radio ad and at a community event at her church, which recently installed a new heat pump at little to no cost through a rebate for nonprofits serving low-income and disadvantaged communities. May doesn't qualify for a free full-service upgrade, but a DRCOG energy advisor tailors an electrification plan for her. And as a LIDAC tract resident, she gets additional rebate dollars from DRCOG plus financing support to cushion the initial cost. Next to April's house in a municipal building, you'll find June. She's a public health staffer for the town and has been keeping an eye on the building decarbonization efforts in larger jurisdictions. June is particularly excited about the potential health benefits, like improved indoor air quality, that come from eliminating fossil fuel appliances. Her goal? Bring those benefits to Colorado Street. Through DRCOG's Building Policy Collaborative, June joins a cohort with neighboring jurisdictions to build a strong case for adopting the 2024 International Energy Conservation Code with even more climate-forward amendments, and has been exploring options with other local governments to address indoor air quality concerns associated with fossil fuel combustion inside the home. She's also brought in the town's building department to work with other municipalities to make the process for permitting electrification equipment more consistent across the region, and has looped town planners into efforts to integrate building decarbonization into community comprehensive plans. She couldn't help but admire the slick, professionally branded outreach and education materials from DRCOG's one-stop shop for marketing and community engagement, all tailor-made for Colorado Street's unique vibe and easily integrated onto the municipal website. The best part? Those educational flyers in Somali are perfect for her mom. Next door, August runs a small HVAC company serving the Denver metro area. Recently, his team has seen a surge in questions about heat pumps. Spotting an opportunity, August reads about a DRCOG training program in a local Colorado Chamber of Commerce newsletter. It offers tuition stipends and offsets work time lost during training. He promptly signs up his team. Within a year, they're actively installing heat pumps and induction stoves all over, leading to a significant increase in the company's revenue. Business is so good, he's looking to partner with DRCOG's job training programs to recruit new technicians to join the company. August is also eyeing an innovation grant to kickstart a service he just came up with. His idea? A fleet of backup hot water heaters. This way, his crew can swoop in and restore hot water in a flash when equipment fails, a smooth move that would then give his customers breathing room to mull over their heat pump options and get connected to DRCOG's navigational and other resources. So we share these examples today to help illustrate the impact we're hoping to achieve with this new program. We're excited about the synergy and reach of these initiatives, each complementing the other, even on just one street. We believe this program will bring about more than change. This could be the beginning of a movement, and we're so excited to have you all join the Oversight Committee and help lead the charge.
Thank you very much, Sam. And thank you all. That's it for me. Sorry, I feel like that was a little long, but thank you, Director Barr. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Robert. I think we're going to be turning the next components of this over to your team and staff. So just following the next step in our agenda, communications and community engagement programs, we're going to turn it over to Chris Selk, our communications program manager. So Chris, go ahead and take it away.
Great, thanks, Steve. Can everyone hear me okay? I was having some microphone issues earlier. Are we good? Okay, great. I'll share my screen. Robert, are you done sharing? Perfect.
Sorry about that.
Okay, and assuming folks can see that as well. Great, okay. So as Robert mentioned, I'm Chris Selk. I am the program manager for communications for Building Decarbonization. I also want to reiterate his thanks to the Oversight Committee. This is going to be a wild ride, but it's going to be exciting and transformational as well, and we are thrilled to partner with you on this endeavor. I'm going to set the table a little bit this morning regarding communications and community engagement, where we are and where we're going. I personally kind of view comms and CE as the soil that the seeds of the program grow in, which probably sounds a little flowery, but I do feel that it's incredibly important to every aspect of the program. And I don't say that just because it's my sphere of responsibility, but because I do think it's true. If you would picture a project schedule, communications and public involvement really start before day one and sunset with the program. So that is not to say, however, that we don't face a few challenges. And Robert talked briefly about them in his part of the presentation. I'd like to just kind of piggyback a little bit on what he said. Heat pumps. Very few people know what they are. And if they do, they don't know how they work. And even if they do know those two things, they think that they don't work in Colorado. And that's a false assumption. As a matter of fact, heat pumps work to great effect in one of the coldest climates in Europe, which is Scandinavia. Sweden, Finland, and Norway actually have the highest heat pump sales per 1,000 households in Europe. And it gets a lot colder there than it does in Colorado in the winter. I think an average winter day in Sweden is about 23 degrees, whereas an average winter day in Denver is about 48 degrees. So our mission then is really the concrete and the abstract. So that concrete meaning demystifying heat pumps and a lot of other aspects of building decarbonization, to be fair. And then combating that glut of misinformation, and then more broadly, making building decarbonization resonate with people on a more personal level. It's a very technical concept. Forgive me, it's not very sexy, and we need to find a way to kind of win over the hearts and minds of Denverites when it comes to decarbonization. So how are we going to do that? Hand in hand with our communications and community engagement consultants, we're going to craft marketing and communication and community engagement campaigns that do three things. They ideate, create, and motivate. So what do we mean by each of those? The first bullet, you see it in the first four letters, the idea phase. We spend months researching and discovering through conversations with community members, CBOs, stakeholders, folks like you, to come up with as much research as we can to inform the second phase, which is the creation phase. And out of that comes two things. The first is a short, memorable, innovative, and singular brand. Building decarbonization does not roll off the tongue. So we need something short and sweet that people can remember and that resonates with them. And then the second facet of the creation phase is a public awareness campaign. And both the brand and this public awareness campaign work with all silos within the program, from building policy to workforce development to incentives and rebates. And it really just makes a whole package of outreach and messaging come together to launch us into that third bullet, which is motivation. We're really asking a lot of some folks. We are challenging long-held and deeply ingrained beliefs. And at the end of the day, we really need to persuade people to change their minds about how they heat their homes, how they cool their homes, how they cook their food. And if you would add a fourth bullet on there, I would add modulate, which means that we can course correct if all of that messaging from the first three phases isn't resonating with the public. We're going to keep a very close eye on KPIs and metrics throughout the duration of the campaign to make sure that our message is hitting in all the right spots. And if it's not, we can pivot. So the first step in all of this is to partner with a creative firm that not only understands our mission, but is also passionate about it. This led to our selection of Sukol Advertising and Design as the communications consultant of record on the decarbonization program. Sukol has a long history since 1995 of taking complex challenges and simplifying them into inspiring ideas, which is really the goal of this entire campaign. So this is a $15 million contract, and it comprises all of the bullet points that you see on this slide, including the creative and memorable brand and the campaign that inspires people to action, which I talked about on the last slide, a robust PR, media strategy, and targeted advertising buy plan. I'm really excited for you to hear from my fellow program managers this morning, because you're going to hear a lot of innovative ideas from them. And in the communications world, innovative ideas equal earned media, which is basically free publicity for your program if you can get traction with area and even national reporters and editors who can see something of value in reporting in your story. So I'm seeing, especially as it pertains to workforce development and incentives and rebates, a lot of toeholds that we can get in the media market to kind of gain some interest and traction. Also in this column, we have a user-friendly and attractive website. We are in the process of bringing our website consultant on board. Our Robert and the evaluation panel interviewed 3 really strong firms yesterday, so we plan to have more news on that for you at our next meeting. that website will obviously house a lot of the interactive devices that we'll be using on the program, such as energy savings calculators and contractor resources. And lastly, Sukul will be helping us create content toolkits for area stakeholders. Robert, very rightly so, put a lot of emphasis on the work with our partners. It couldn't have been done without them. And I've been really fortunate to start meeting all of my cohorts in communications offices throughout the DRCOG region, and they are really excited to help us amplify and put forth all of these messages that we're going to have coming out. This toolkit will enable those messages to be really cohesive and consistent. In communications, very often an inconsistent message can be worse than no message at all. So we're going to avoid that from the outset with these customizable toolkits. So I am very excited about communications, but I think I am even more excited about community engagement on this program. We're in the process of selecting our community engagement consultant. We have 3 incredibly talented firms that we're going to be interviewing next Thursday. So again, more about that selection at our next meeting. This is a $4 million contract, and I'm very excited to tell you that well over half of those dollars will be going directly to CBOs to basically help us as an extension of staff as it pertains to public involvement. We'll be working with the CE consultant to create a granting framework, setting up a selection process, a vetting process, and then an award process. The funds will come directly from DRCOG, but the consultant will play a key role in helping us set up the entire granting program. This has become a best practice nationwide. Historically, CBOs on programs like these have worked for free. And these granting possibilities really help kind of correct that wrong and help us set a more equitable table moving forward regarding public involvement. I'm also very excited about the 3rd bullet on this list, which is transcreation. For those of you who aren't familiar with this concept, it's really what it sounds like. It's the marriage of translation and creation. It's also an emerging best practice in the public involvement realm. It goes a step beyond word for word translation, and it really does a far superior job of maintaining a message's tone and style. So a successfully transcreated message evokes the same emotions and the same implications in the target language as it does in the source language. So when I came on board and saw that this was an important part of the RFP for the community engagement consultant and just a really vital part of the whole CE plan, I was really excited. I've been able to work on projects where both pass-through grants and transcreation are vital parts of the public outreach program, and they've worked to great success. So what are we asking of you? Again, we value your partnership. We hope that's obvious. I promise to come back to you at each meeting, reporting on the progress that we're making in communications and community engagement. We count on you to be ambassadors for this program. It's incredibly important to us. One thing that I would ask of you in a public involvement space is that if you have CBOs in your respective communities that you know of, that you feel would be good additions to our team in the granting process, I would love it if you would reach out and let me know, because I'd love to have conversations with them and let them know that these grant opportunities exist. And with that, that concludes my part of this, so I'll stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Chris. And I just wanted to echo the last point that you made, is that, I think there's a reason why DRCOG and members of municipalities, contractors, we have extraordinary reach and insight into the communities that we're serving on the day-to-day. And I think we can't emphasize the ambassadorship to this program enough, not only on this board, but when it comes down to, I think I was overly exuberant with Doug and Robert when I was saying, oh man, I know this great CBO that connects with, historically marginalized Hispanic communities, even in my relatively wealthy suburb of Littleton. And I think it's that pinpointing, that insight that I think you all can bring to this conversation. Some of you, Dr. Walker Ravenall, you live this every day, but I think as public representatives, as contractors, you're bringing nuance and perspective to this that sometimes, quite frankly, it's just hard to reach at this large regional scale. So I just want to reemphasize this and say, Chris, thank you for the time and insight and diligence into all these new communication modalities and methodologies. I'm looking forward to it. All right. So with that, we're going to move on to Clay McComb, who's going to talk to us about workforce and industry development programs, another thing I've been harping on and super excited about. So Clay, take it away.
Okay, from beginning. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. Can everyone see my screen okay? Okay, perfect. Well, let me introduce myself.
We're actually seeing presenter mode.
Thank you. Is that any better? That's good.
You got it. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you. My name is Clay McComb. I use he, him pronouns, and I was recently brought on to the DRCOG team. I previously was working at the City and County of Denver in an office known as CASR, or the Office of Climate Action, Sustainability and Resilience. Good to see a former colleague, Samantha Lichten, on the call. And I was on the green workforce team over at CASR. Specifically, I was an electrification liaison, understanding that a huge initiative for the CASR office was heat pumps and building electrification, but was met with a supply issue. We have the demand with these incentives. We just frankly don't have enough workers to meet that demand. So I spent a lot of my time with the city, building relationships with local unions, workforce development nonprofits, manufacturers, distributors, really just understanding the whole landscape of heat pumps and what type of career this can be, what opportunities come with it, and really just understanding the mechanics of heat pumps as well. And then before that, I was with a community nonprofit here in Denver called Community Works, who some of you folks might be familiar with. I was a site director for the Denver branch, known as Denver Works, but Robert Andrews is a mentor of mine. He hired me on to do workforce on the nonprofit side. Specifically, we really worked with folks that were transitioning from the Colorado corrections institutional systems back into society, even involving going into Colorado correctional facilities, doing insight intakes, workforce training, and preparedness reentry plans for life on the outside. So that opportunity has shifted my perspective on everything in my career, and hopefully you'll see some of that come into play with the programs that we're proposing here today. Okay, so let's start with the problem. What is the problem? We have two things, a skills gap and a labor gap here in the HVAC industry, HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. I'll just say, we're not creating a new job with heat pumps necessarily. This is a practice of an existing job. So the job or occupation that we're talking about here from a workforce perspective is that of an HVAC technician. Of the HVAC technicians of the industry, we were fortunate enough to be able to fund some research on this when I was with the city to understand what is the landscape. How many workers do we have installing these technologies? Where do we need to be to hit our goals? And that study, which is published online right now, shows that only about 10% of the entire HVAC community in Denver and beyond is trained to properly install cold climate heat pumps. So that 90% that's not adopting, they prefer to stick with gas. That's the industry standard. Colorado is a natural gas state. And 10% are early adopters seeing the opportunity with cold climate heat pumps. So that's our skills gap. The labor gap, we just simply don't have enough people in the trades. We have a retirement rate that is growing faster than the new entry rate. It's based on our same study that I referenced. About 1/3 of all trades are set to retire in the next 10 years. So heat pumps or not, electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, HVAC technicians, we're going to be 1/3 shy of what we currently have at this rate. So we need to find ways to get more young people interested in this as a career path. And hopefully these programs can do just that. The solution at a very simple level, one, we need to make heat pumps easy, simple, and business as usual for the industry. Number two, we're going to create 3 green workforce centers across the DRCOG region to address that labor gap that I mentioned. And then lastly, we're going to look at representation in the industry, understanding that, again, based on demographic research, this is traditionally an older skewing white male dominated field. And how can we do more specific tailored outreach to increase representation and have this industry represent more accurately the DRCOG region? And here are the programs we are proposing. I'm so excited about these. I just, again, want to say thank you all for being here. When I was with the city, I was fortunate enough to help design these programs while I was still working at CASR. So this has been a year's worth of brainstorming, working groups, finally coming to fruition. So again, thank you all for being here. Our first program we're proposing for the industry development is a contractor navigation hub, $4.5 million. This grant is open for procurement right now. It closes on February 25th. So hopefully an entity or team of groups are putting together an amazing application and they're going to solve these problems we have in the industry. This hub will be a one-stop shop that gives HVAC contractors free resources when it comes to their heat pump projects. That includes trainings, sales and customer service, rebate guidance, project management skills, helping with building codes and permitting and more. And through this hub, we aim to serve 1,000 contractors throughout the duration of the grant. Features of the hub are going to include an online web platform. Basically, all of the resources for heat pump projects will all be in one place finally, so you don't have to navigate through 10 different websites. We will understand that there are small businesses that don't have the same resources as the larger early adopters. So we're going to establish a small business scaling program for small contractors. Specifically, we're going to be looking for women and minority-owned businesses for a 6-month training course to help them scale their business, a lot like August did in Samantha's presentation. That will also include mentors from those more experienced in the industry too. Again, talking about industry, the Contractor Hub will have live heat pump agents. These agents will essentially take the administrative burden off of contractors. This is feedback I hear all the time from contractors in the industry is, yeah, heat pumps are great, and it's great that there's incentives, but there's 5 different rebate applications I have to fill out, or some equipment is eligible and some is not. Basically, it's too much of an administrative headache to receive money for heat pump installations. So what's the solution to that? Hopefully it's these agents. The analogy I use is we can teach contractors how to do their taxes, or we can build TurboTax. And hopefully this is the TurboTax of heat pump installations, and can just hit the easy button to allow contractors to install more heat pumps and focus more on their business. Last service for industry on the hub, the contractor hub is a master training calendar. All of the heat pump training programs happening around the region will all be located on this calendar. You can sign up for them on this calendar, and we will have funds to compensate contractors for the cost of those trainings as well. So essentially, we're making heat pump trainings free in the DRCOG region. Those are the services for industry. Really briefly now, we're going to talk about the new workforce, entry-level, new workers. How are we going to fill that labor gap? The first program we're proposing for that is the development of 3 green workforce hubs across the DRCOG region. If anyone's familiar with public workforce centers, like maybe in your region, Boulder Workforce Center, Montbello, Aurora, this will essentially follow that model. There will be walk-in availability. If someone's looking for a job, they can set up an appointment or walk in, meet with a green career navigator. Those navigators will run a team at each of these hubs and can work with the job seeker on their resume, connect them to opportunities, do an intake and understand maybe the barriers they might be facing. And they will be able to provide wraparound services for those job seekers too. So for example, childcare, we know there's a huge barrier there for mothers and parents in general who can't afford childcare with today's rates and go to work. So we can cover the cost of that. We can cover the cost of transportation, cost of tools, trainings, and these green workforce hubs are going to inject 3,800 new workers into the HVAC and heat pump workforce. That's almost 4,000 workers. This is so exciting. And then lastly, the last program in the workforce initiative is addressing representation in the industry or the gap in representation. That's why we've called this program Growth Access Programs, or GAPS. These are going to be customized heat pump trainings that are delivered by subject matter experts for these demographics. And they're really going to be just tailored trainings to help with the underrepresented groups getting more pathways, more access and inclusion in our trainings into the industry. So we're going to have one training program for justice impacted job seekers. This one I'm really excited about. We've partnered with the State Attorney General, Phil Weiser, and his team, and the Colorado Department of Corrections. So we're going to have behind the walls apprenticeship training for those with 6 months or less on their prison sentence. And then that training will transition right into a fair chance employer upon release. This is going to be an amazing program, maybe the first heat pump prison training program ever. And I'm so excited about AG Weiser's enthusiasm and the Department of Corrections enthusiasm. We're also going to have a multicultural program. Here we're addressing language barriers in the industry. So for example, if an entity was a subject matter expert in the Spanish-speaking community, this would be for Spanish-speaking students to be taught by a Spanish-speaking instructor, then eventually connected to Spanish-speaking employers, where they could then install heat pumps in Spanish-speaking households, which we know can be a huge barrier for the homeowner. If someone's in your house, digging around, messing with your appliances, and they don't even speak your language, this will make that process hopefully a little more comfortable. And then lastly, youth. Like I said, a third of the workforce is going to retire in 10 years in the trades. We need to find creative ways, working with Denver Public Schools, youth after school programs, finding a way to promote these green jobs or climate tech jobs to young people as a viable career. I would love everyone on this oversight committee's feedback on partnerships. If there's blind spots I have, you really should connect with this community-based organization or this technical trainer. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. This will take a village to accomplish. Assess the effectiveness. We're going to be transparent with all of our results and those lofty numbers we put out there. We're going to hit that 4,800 number, but we want to be held accountable too. Identify challenges and then recommend equity-focused strategies along the way. So I will stop sharing now. That was quite a bit, and I want to leave room for my other colleagues here.
Thank you so much, Clay. I wanted to lift up real quickly a question regarding a comment you made, Clay, from Director Kondo. Director Kondo, did you want to ask that? Do you have audio capability? Okay, no, never
I
mind.
believe I do.
Oh, you do?
And maybe I would reserve this for the very end. It just, as I sit here and I think about the adoption of new technologies, you know, I'm thinking from a marketing perspective, this so-called S-curve, and also Malcolm Gladwell's concept of, you know, reaching a tipping point. And I often wonder if you all at large, and perhaps this can be a discussion at the end of this, have thought about what is that target percentage uptake that's going to be required for this to really be accepted by the market at large. Anyway, don't need an answer now, but that was just one of the things that just popped into my head.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's a lot of coordination amongst all these programs to create full market transformation. That's the collective end goal. Based on the studies I've overseen, in order to hit full market adoption with the state's climate goals, we'll need a 23.6% increase year over year in order for 100% of the workforce, at least, to be installing heat pumps. So that's for the existing workforce. 23.6% every year needs to adopt more and more. 2035 would be the goal for everyone to be installing heat pumps, with the understanding that the average gas furnace has a 15-year lifespan. So if the last gas furnace in Colorado is installed in 2035, it lives a long 15-year life burning gas, and then finally it putters out and dies in 2050 and is replaced with a heat pump, and we're fully decarbonized in Colorado by 2050. That would kind of be some numbers to throw out there.
Director Douglas.
Yes, I have a question. Will this, if we're going to, with this program with heat pumps, will this also help scale down the price of the heat pumps? Because that's been the challenge, is the price of the heat pumps.
That's a pretty good transition question for our next presenter, I would say. If it's Mac, you know.
Thank you.
It is, yeah. I'd be happy to speak to that a little bit in the next slides.
Well, before turning it over to Mac, I just want to say, Clay, thank you again. And as you know, as you were speaking and as I was listening, I was also remembering that even in my own jurisdiction, I have a new high school vocational training program that is focused on construction trades and HVAC trades. I think all of us, again, where it concerns that advocacy, please do make sure to reach out to those folks, to those high school programs, to those workforce development programs. And oh, sorry, Dr. Walker Ravenhall, please. Your audio, I think, cut out.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I had a question around the piece around when we partner with students, because I think about when I was a teacher, because I was a licensed CTE teacher for many years, would that RFP support organizations that are offering those employability skills? Because what I found is that most of our students don't have those skills yet, like those, we call them boot camp. We called it boot camp. But that was the important class that they had to take before they went out into the industry. Because at that time I was an internship and an apprenticeship director. So I'm wondering what those RFPs cover that, because I find it, based on my experience for many years, that students, when they go into the industry, they have a hard time because they don't know the basic skills of being employable, because they don't show up, or, they don't know the part about communication. So is that going to be a part of this work? Because I think that's the background, the backbone before these students can even go to the industry.
Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up, Dr. Sheree, and it's nice to meet you as well. And it sounds like you're referring to kind of like soft skills, maybe not as technical of those skills, but just overall employability, showing up on time, customer service, kind of those pro-social skills.
Yeah, because I found that, I mean, I had like 50 students running in the semester doing this job. And a lot of our students, sometimes they struggled. They struggled. They knew the job. I had one student that he was interested in being a welder, but he got fired. He got fired because he just didn't know, because they're young. So yeah, I'm just wondering, because I don't think they have a problem with learning the trade, learning the skill. It's the P's that concerns me before then, that sometimes, those things are not really taught in school in a traditional classroom.
Yeah, that's such a good point. I would love to have a one-on-one meeting as well and discuss this further. I'd love to have you in a working group, but as we develop the language around that, but absolutely. And for the other programs, the multicultural and justice impacted too, I think those social skills and soft skills too, the things they don't teach you in the classroom, are incredibly important. We also want to recommend mentoring in those programs, one-on-one mentoring, where you're bringing a student on a job site, talking them through some of the unspoken rules, the behind the scenes tricks of the trade. So that's great insight you already are bringing to this committee, and I look forward to chatting more.
Thank you.
Well, thank you everyone for all the passion we're bringing to the workforce stuff. We know, Clay, you're going to have your hands full with us and thoughts and ideas on how to move forward. But I just want to note that we're about 30 minutes from the end. We've got 2 presentations left. I don't want to try to cut everyone short, just being mindful of time. So with that being said, we're going to go on to Mac Prather on the incentives program.
Yeah, thank you, Director Barr. Good morning, everybody. Very glad to be here, humbled to be here with you all, and excited. So I'm also joining the team at DRCOG in the past couple weeks, most recently coming from City and County of Denver's Climate Action Office. So I actually worked with Clay there. And with Denver, I led their residential electrification incentives and programs. And kind of what we're doing here really speaks to those comments about adoption of this new technology and market transformation. In fact, that's what I have on my slide here when we talk about these service programs. So we really see the adoption of this better heat pump technology as an inevitability in Colorado. But what we're trying to do with these programs is really accelerate it and make it smooth and make it easier on everybody in the ecosystem. I hope you all are seeing the slides now. I'm trying to buy myself some time. Great. And I'm going to reiterate a little bit. You heard some from Robert, you heard some from Chris, but you're going to be hearing a lot about heat pumps from us. And so it's important to hear it a lot of times. But a heat pump is just like your air conditioner. It can provide that cooling for your home, but it can also do the heating. And that's so important in Colorado because these heat pumps operate at 300 or 400% efficiency, super, super efficient compared to a wheezy old gas furnace. Chris talked about how they work effectively in our state, all corners of the state. And I'll just say from my experience, we have a 1950s home. We're here in Northside Denver. We have only a heat pump that heats our home. And we've been toasty warm this week, even when it was down to 0 degrees. So they work great. In fact, they even work in space. So the technology that's on the space station and the shuttle, it's not the same thing that's working in my house in North Denver. But I say that just to emphasize that the technology has been around for a long time. It's advanced, it's robust. And what we really need to focus on for homes in Denver is a cold climate heat pump. So you'll hear that a lot from us. That's a specific designation that says, hey, this heat pump works in our cold climate. And the bottom line is that this is the technology that helps create healthier homes. We know that it can lead to cleaner, less polluted air across Colorado, and it can make our homes more comfortable. After all, we spend 90% of our time indoors where we live and where we work. And so we can improve all these things through these technologies. And if you heard me say 300% efficiency and that seems crazy, I think a lot of you know what a heat pump is. A lot of you have good expertise here. If you don't, though, we would be happy to dig more into that. I'm a little bit of a nerd. I'm an engineer by trade, so happy to chat more and dig into the details, but outside of the meeting today. And I'll also emphasize, while we're kind of setting the stage, that whenever we talk about heat pumps and fuel switching to all electric energy, we also want to be talking about energy efficiency. Because buildings are systems, it's important to think about a building as a whole with pieces that interact with each other. And we know that an energy efficient building with a tight envelope and a warm sweater of insulation works better with a heat pump. Beyond that, again, the engineer in me always says efficiency is the first fuel. And so we know that just by having more efficient buildings and retrofitting our buildings for more efficiency, before we even add the heat pump, we can reduce pollution, we can save people money. And there's good research that shows a well-weatherized home is a healthier home. It keeps the smoke out, it keeps the pollution outside from getting in. So there's a lot of reasons to be thinking about energy efficiency as well as electrification. And going back to those kind of market transformation, the big goals that we're working on, we have to kind of imagine this future where the highly efficient building that is all electric with cold climate heat pumps is the status quo. Right now, like Clay said, that's not business as usual, but this is the future that we're aiming towards. And in addition to that being the status quo, it has to be easy to navigate by everybody that's involved. If you think about the system and making upgrades to buildings and homes right now, if you maybe your water heater went out in the past couple of years and you made this upgrade, you know that it's not easily navigable as it is. It's not easy to replace your gas furnace with another gas furnace. And so we're not only talking about market transformation of technology, we're talking about improving how these projects work on the whole from every angle. And we're doing that through an incentive program, an energy advising program to support people face-to-face, and some targeted programs for lower income households, households with vulnerable family members and disproportionately impacted communities to make sure that they get the best technologies as well. I'm going to start with our incentives and energy advising programs. That's together on one slide because this is one contract and it's one RFP. This one was actually launched, and this is open solicitation right now. We published this about a week ago, so we're really excited to have that out in the world and excited to see what response we get. But through that, we will be directing up to $43 million for incentives and administration of those incentives, and up to $17 million for energy advising services. Those are going to help people, again, choose those cold climate heat pumps over the traditional gas and air conditioning alternatives, and support those people in making that an easily navigable transition. So what problem are we really trying to solve with those incentives? I think you all were getting at it with your questions about what percent adoption do we need? What does that market transformation look like along that curve? And I don't know that I have an answer to that percent we need, but we know that we're not to that point yet in the market in Colorado. As Clay was saying, really small portion of installers are well-trained, and we just don't have the critical mass because there's so much complexity in this ecosystem right now. And if you're a homeowner or you're a building owner, these are big projects, they're complex. And let's say now you're having to make comparisons between gas furnaces and heat pumps, probably different levels of heat pumps. You're working with 3 or 4 vendors. And if you're faced with that complexity, what happens is you end up making the easy choice, which right now is the low efficiency bottom of the barrel furnace or whatever's on your contractor's truck. If you're the installer, again, complexity is huge there. And as Clay was saying, you might be dealing with 4 or 5 incentive applications to make sure your customer gets what they're asking for. You might be working across 5 jurisdictions. So if you have customers in Denver and Boulder and Littleton, you have to deal with 3 or 4 or 5 different licenses. And for the contractor, that means you have more administrative work. And at the same time, you're trying to train up your staff on this new heat pump and make sure you're doing a quality installation. And that's new technology, and that's risk. So when you have more administrative work and you have more risk, that means higher cost. And those are the kind of things we're trying to solve, not only with the incentives, but in the long term by making these things more affordable. So for the homeowner, of course, the incentive helps reduce that first cost of choosing the system. That was a question in the chat. But it also signals kind of the good, better, best technology. So by using an incentive, we can balance out the differential between the traditional equipment and the cold climate heat pump. And we can also signal to the customer that that cold climate Energy Star heat pump is the best solution for Colorado. We also recognize that there are a lot of incentive programs out there right now. Xcel has a great program. They're leading in many ways in heat pump incentives. Denver has a program. The state has incentives. And as part of this simplification, we're imagining really one clearinghouse of that information for Colorado. So we've been very lucky to work with the staff, program managers, and leadership at Xcel Energy and the state and many other stakeholders to start chipping away at making that choice of contractor a little bit easier. And that's a big goal of this program. For the contractors and for their businesses, the incentive has to be something that integrates with their sales. It has to be a service to the installer. We've heard so much feedback that incentive applications and changing equipment requirements add complexity and make things more difficult. This program has to simplify, and it has to be a tool for installers. So we're waiting on responses to that RFP, but this is really central. And a lot of coordination will be happening between this program and Clay's Contractor Navigation Hub to make sure that not only is the incentive and the application and the portal designed with and for contractors, but that they have access to all the resources they need to get that done. The complement to the dollars and the incentives is the energy advising. And that program is really designed, again, to make these choices and these projects more easily navigable. A reminder, that's up to $17 million. And what that might look like is face-to-face or virtual consulting with a homeowner, with a building owner about their project. And it's meant to be built kind of on 3 pillars. One is trust, so that we can bring in a third-party expert who's not your contractor, not somebody who's competing for your business. It's not, City of Denver or DRCOG, but somebody who really is an expert and can help you with reliable information, who can also simplify projects. So we want to help homeowners and business owners make apples to apples comparison across these complex projects. And these advisors will do that. And then finally, always we're pointing towards quality. So we want to help people pick the contractors that are doing quality installations and picking the top quality of equipment that's right for their home. So that program, that RFP is open now for incentives and energy advising. The other program and the big area that I'm very excited about and want to talk about is our full service program for low income, disproportionately impacted communities. This is not an incentive program. So one is really geared towards helping balance cost and make signals in the market. This program is about providing the best quality equipment and addressing needs all at no cost to the participants. So we're thinking about this in a different way. This program is also, we intend to have this RFP launched soon with one administrator delivering $48 million worth of services for vulnerable households, low-income households, and folks in those disproportionately impacted communities that might be mobile home communities on Colorado's EnviroScreen map. We're really thinking about this in terms of vulnerability and risk. And I'll just step back and kind of say, I think we all recognize how important this program is in terms of the big picture goals we're doing. When we talk about market transformation, when we talk about pollution reduction and kind of climate action, those things, I think, to the folks in this room seem obvious, and that's kind of what a lot of us live and breathe. But to a lot of people, their day-to-day concerns are different. Folks maybe who are struggling to pay their energy bills in the winter, or have a grandma in the house who's dealing with some health issues, or a new baby. The concerns of people in their day-to-day reflect their lives, and this program is really meant to address those real and material concerns, things like having cooling and heating, safe home, affordable utility bills. And so it's really important that this program is grounded in those things, even though increasing the efficiency of homes and adding heat pumps for cooling does have positive impacts on clean air and climate. This program is really focused on those human needs. And for that reason, it's really important that we're closely tied in with Chris's community engagement work. I think without that work, without the community input driving this program, we can't really successfully reflect those needs. So I'll just reiterate that ask from Chris, that we want your help finding the people who can help inform this program. And my vision is that this is not just a 4 or 5 year program that serves 1,600 homes, but it's something that can become much bigger for the state and reach many more homes. And to get there, we need that genuine feedback, and we need to really address what people's needs are, both in their home, on their block, and in their neighborhood and community. So I don't want to belabor it too much, but that's what's critical to making this successful. There are some interesting innovations here. Again, this is not a program that's about innovation in the sense that we're trying new things, that we're trying high-risk behaviors, because we don't do high-risk behaviors when people have high risks of their own. But there are really interesting innovations in terms of the mode of delivery of these services. We're looking at things like neighborhood scale projects that can take advantage of kind of social connections and really work with communities. We're focused on health and indoor air quality, which is kind of unique to these kind of programs in the nation. And we want to really be making those ties with workforce and with Clay's program. So we know we're going to be working in 1,600 homes and doing comprehensive work. That's a guaranteed pipeline of work and jobs and training opportunities. So we want to be looking for those opportunities as well. When talking about innovation, we do have one program that's exclusively focused on those innovative opportunities, and that is our $6 million innovation pilot program. This is also an open RFP right now, but will essentially provide funding to kind of solve problems in the market, test new solutions, new technologies. And what's on the slide here talks about how we might do that for small businesses or new business models, but this can also be testing and innovating on breaking barriers for community access to programs. This is open, will be open to CBOs and nonprofits, community orgs, to look at some of those innovative ways to get people involved in programs, get them access to services, and innovate in that way as well. I do want to highlight that we anticipate this committee will be engaged in the selection and evaluation of those grants. So we're really excited to see what we can test through that program. To give you all a sense of where these programs are in process, I mentioned some of those RFPs are open now. So innovation, incentives, and energy advising are right at the top. We anticipate, evaluating bids on those contracts, contracting, and then having something signed and ready to go early in the second quarter of the year, pushing towards very aggressive launch of some incentives before the end of this year. So we want to see incentives out in the market by the start of the fourth quarter of this year. That's a lot of design will go into that, but that's an aggressive timeline we're pushing towards. And the reason for that is we want to make sure we signal a smooth transition from some of those programs that are running currently in Denver and Boulder, and pick up easily and smoothly from there. For a LIDAC full service program, we will be publishing that RFP a little bit later this spring, but also pushing towards a launch for some pilots or initial parts of that program before the end of the year. And for your all's roles, again, just mentioning, we want you all to be ambassadors for these programs. We talked about several ways that I think you all can help us get the word out, get people involved, make sure that these resources are reaching your communities and the people that are within your circles. But we also want your input on determining the right level of access. There's some real challenges with designing these programs because of the reach of DRCOG. We work across many utilities, many jurisdictions, some with their own incentive programs. And so the need to kind of evaluate that landscape is something we're starting now. And we look forward to having that conversation with you all to make sure that's equitable and it makes sense for your communities. Of course, that input on policy and program design is going to be critical to make sure we're reaching the right folks. And we'll be coming back to you with stories. We'll be tracking our performance and looking for your input there. And finally, we want you to help us grow. So it was kind of hinted on earlier, but we do have commitments from City and County of Denver and Boulder to contribute some dollars to these incentive programs so that we can continue what those programs are already leading. And we want to be on the lookout for more opportunities to grow these programs in the DRCOG region and the state. So whether that's working with some of the local utilities or other jurisdictions, we think there are real opportunities to kind of grow and consolidate to make these incentives and these services central to the region and to Colorado and a real service to everyone. So thank you again. Happy to kind of address any questions, but appreciate it.
Mac, thank you so much for that comprehensive presentation. And we are running about 7 minutes till the end of our meeting. Robert, I wasn't sure if that was what you'd like to address, but Greg, I'm not going to push you to summarize the entirety of your program in 30 seconds. So I want to take the time to hear you out and hear out how all our cities are going to collaborate through that, through your program. So what we're going to do is I'd like to propose we move this to our next meeting agenda in a month. And Robert, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, same page. Sorry, we're so excited about these programs. We talked too much. We don't want every meeting to be like this. We definitely want more feedback, but we had to kind of like lay out this foundation. So I'm going to encourage Greg to get into his $40 million kind of local jurisdiction support program next month. But I wanted to give him a chance to say hi for a second here first.
Hi, folks. Greg Meow here, the program manager for the Building Policy Collaborative. Looking forward to talking to you all more during our next meeting, where I can share more about the Building Policy Collaborative. I think, just because I'm getting a little bit of the short trip, I'm going to put the plug in that building decarbonization policies are how we're going to get the greatest greenhouse gas reduction wins. And so, I don't know. That's just my little my little humble brag, I guess. If we can get it done, but I think we can, and we've got a good program lined up for how we're going to do that. And just wanted to update you all really quickly that we're in the process right now of selecting our vendors for the Pure network, which is going to be very central to just getting everyone to walk lockstep towards this goal together. And I think they're all really highly qualified, and I'm very excited to get them on board and really start working on getting the money to our communities and getting our communities in communication and community with each other.
Thank you so much, Greg. And I do want to shout out to the fact that because we only do meet once a month, sometimes these opportunities with open solicitations for vendors and programs can even close in that period of time. Robert, if you could just follow up with just providing the group here with those links so we can kind of distribute amongst our staff as well. I don't want to necessarily miss an opportunity to get somebody in Greg's cohort just because, yeah, Greg, that, unfortunately we were all very enthusiastic about the work. So if you could follow up with some of those links to those open opportunities, that would be fantastic. All right, with that, Robert, Doug, I'll turn it back over to you for the last administrative items, kind of talking about next steps, our upcoming meeting schedules, things of that nature. So please go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Thanks. And again, sorry, this wasn't very conversational. What we promised to do, we're getting up and running here. We're figuring out our timing, first meeting, but as you can tell, I'm so proud of this staff we have here. We are so excited about the opportunity in this program here. Really appreciate you. So these meetings are going to be held on the second Friday of each month. We intend to do them in person about once a quarter. I think we can kind of figure that out as we go, but we are planning on the next meeting, so our March meeting, which is on March, I should have that date in front of me, 14th, to be in person at the DRCOG office at 1001 17th Street in downtown Denver. Obviously, we'll send more information about that in the coming weeks. And yeah, I guess that's all I have. I'd like to thank you one more time. And if there's any kind of last minute burning questions, I'm happy to entertain those right now before we meet next month.
Nope. Thank you again, Robert, Doug, DRCOG staff for the great presentations. We'll look for an agenda next month. And in the meantime, I'll actually reach out to all of you and just kind of do a quick touch base if you'd like, and looking forward to our meeting in March. So thank you again, and have a great one, everyone, and enjoy the weekend.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Bye, everyone.